desire in society currently, with current events, to experience like safe horror show.
The basic difference between ugliness and beauty is that beauty comes in few forms, whilst ugliness comes in countless forms.
We should move on to OnlyFans.
If everything is possible, nothing matters anymore. Everybody is dressed in the same way, but everybody thinks that they are not.
I'm gonna destroy your Western democracy and Western world. And if you haven't paid attention before, now you see me. Guess what is the biggest complaint? For lack of sex.
I mean, why don't you watch your porn? Really, why do you need to watch a TV series to see sex?
The moment we start deny our past, the moment we start to write off our mistakes or wrongdoings, we stop learning our lessons and moving forward.
I think you are haunted by a straight man who can do this sort of thing.
Gotcha Gone Bad is back.
Yet again.
Yet again, we are still alive. Nuclear power is looming in the background, but we keep on going. So, GP, I would like to start with some images which have been quite shocking. And I'm not talking about the Bucha events in Ukraine. I'm referring to recent red carpet from Grammys.
Mm-hmm.
And the horror show which we experienced there. So you see, last week was rich for many horror shows. Obviously, I think it would be a mistake to say what celebrities should be expected to have high aesthetic taste and what celebrity entertainment events are about some sort of a specific pinnacle of fashion experience. But simultaneously, I kind of wonder sometimes, is it a joke what stylists put on celebrities on the red carpet, or it just shows how little taste is involved in this type of events? And also maybe it's also a bigger signifier of some sort of a new looming trend, like Grammys Gothic.
I think that the Grammys and red carpets, generally speaking, lately are not addressing trends. They are addressing fads. Because nothing that we see on red carpets will become a trend, will die out before becoming a trend, because it's uncomfortable, useless. It has all the characteristics of fads.
So why is it so bad?
Sorry?
But why is it so bad? Like, even if it's just for a moment.
Well, fashion in general, I don't think is concerned with beauty and taste. It's concerned with newness. And that's the only way certain second-rate celebrities have to be spoken about, given that most of them are not talented and most of them are not memorable. So they want to be remembered by the fans they wear. But the point is that the red carpets, I think, are abandoning the idea of being the place for fashion, and they are becoming. It's not like when people in the 19th century went to the opera with their best dress. That's not what red carpets are today. They are places not even for making a political statement, just for making a personal individual statement. And they are more akin to a costume party than everybody thinks that, you know, Met Gala was probably the first to turn couture, to turn red carpets into costume parties, but now it's becoming the norm.
Yeah, but my point is Met Gala, not everyone, but Met Gala seems to have some sort of a taste, and there is actual...
Because they have a theme, that's why.
Yeah, but regardless of the theme, sometimes most of celebrities actually, we do get it right, and it does look quite fascinating, and maybe to some, you know, creative or artistic, whatever you want to describe it as. But now when it gets to Grammys and red carpets, it just sounds like it looks like very, very bad taste. It's like almost, you know, we went down the road here on the high street to some like fancy party dress shop, and we just picked whatever was on a discount on the day.
But the point is, Alexandra, that we are proving them right because we are talking about them, which is the ultimate goal. They don't want to be remembered because they're good, or they don't want to be remembered. For me, the only memorable moment at the Grammys, truly memorable, was Donatella Versace's appearance, which, by the way, was memorable, was beautiful, was cute, but it was a quote of something that had already happened in the past. So the only memorable moment was already seen.
Well, after all, we didn't call our podcast Culture Gone Bad for nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, you would imagine with all the opportunities and resources we have, I would go for just a little bit more tasteful garments and a bit more aspiring designers. And everyone's saying Billie Eilish was dressed badly. I actually thought she was dressed quite well.
I agree. She was the best. I think she was one of the best dressed, was Billie Eilish. Yes, I do agree. Some of them, and also there is a problem today that the moment
only one,
many of them, but one problem for red carpets is that on the one hand, they want to be remembered because of the crazy shit they do. And this is the meme culture. Okay, they know that if they wear weird things, they are going to appear, they're going to be reposted on Instagram as jokes. Everybody aims to become a joke today because it's the only way you have to become viral on the internet. And this clearly is a big problem. And the other one is that with this madness about body positivity, if you are a woman, you happen to be sexy and thin and beautiful, and you dress accordingly, you are probably going to be criticized for somehow body shaming women who are not as thin. And I've seen this happening. I've seen this happening with, for instance, the celebrities wearing the Miu Miu set. Just because they were wearing what they liked to wear, they were shamed. How dare you showing the chiseled abs, etc. That's in itself body shaming. Okay, but if you dress crazily, then you also avoid entering that sort of world, and it's a way to protect yourself. I think, besides all the things.
So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yes.
No, fair enough. But for me, some of the outfits were proper sort of Mary Shelley, coming back to life, Frankenstein aesthetics, or just really, really questionable outfits and ridiculous. Obviously, probably to generate press attention. I also can get that. But it's just, I think it was particularly horrendous. And ironically, like I said, Billie Eilish and also Justin Bieber, who was so highly criticized. I thought we're probably,
the Balenciaga
we probably were a little bit on the better spectrum compared to the horror show.
I agree. At least they were wearing something that was questionable in terms of beauty, but it was not poor taste. It was bad taste, not poor taste. It was interesting anyway. It was interesting.
At least it was styled.
It was better styled, definitely.
But you know what? On this note, even though you say red carpet is not about trends, I do notice a correlation between what happened on these red carpets and couture shows, which took place recently. There was a big Gothic theme and a lot of horror movies aesthetics, and I do notice correlation.
Of course, but I when I say fads, I don't mean the macro theme, because Goth is always there. It's always a Goth moment. You can find Goth crawling. What I mean is really
I like gas in the evening.
Like those are macro trends that somehow it's even wrong to call them trends, because they are never truly out of fashion. Trends need to go out of fashion to be called trends. Otherwise, they're classics. But I'm talking about the specific items that they wear, the specific things, not the macro themes that they refer to.
Yeah, you see, this is my idea, what I kind of see there. Potentially, could it be what there's some desire in society currently, with current events, to experience like safe horror show through these outfits which we wear? Because everything is so grim and apocalyptical right now. Why don't we put some horrendous outfits on all the celebrities, so we revive this awful aesthetic of scare and fear, so we just express it in this visual content?
I always resist very much as I already said probably in some podcasts, the idea of the zeitgeist, of the fashion that follows the time. Unfortunately, fashion is narrow business, fashion at that level. I'm not talking about H&M, I'm talking about, red carpet shows and red carpet looks that works for few people, privileged people who do not who are usually not confronted with the problems of the world. There is a detachment, and there is always a weird discrepancy when famous people try to embrace social themes. Do you remember Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez going to the Met Gala with the tax the rich thing, saying in a place that was literally encrusted with rich people.
It was financed by rich.
So it was a little bit grotesque. So, but I do think that there is one truth in what you say. They are deliberately using ugliness, because there is a German philosopher who wrote a book that is not quoted enough, called Aesthetics of Ugliness. And in this book, Rosencrantz is a philosophical account on ugliness. There are very few books, philosophical accounts on ugliness in the world, okay, that ever made, whereas there are many, countless books on beauty. So Rosencrantz says the basic difference between ugliness and beauty is that beauty comes in few forms, whilst ugliness comes in countless forms. And fashion is about newness. Therefore, if you only hinge on beauty, you have very limited choice. So they are deliberately using horrific themes because they know that this is an inexhaustible well of ideas.
Oh, interesting. So beauty is one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Ugliness is perpetual opportunity for all of us to embrace.
Yes.
What makes it even exciting, JP? You suddenly sold me the idea of ugliness.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to say, you know that, I don't know if our listeners know this, but recently I mean, you know this because we are colleagues. I did a speech. I gave a speech, which is on YouTube.
Have you been cancelled after?
No, I haven't been cancelled.
Not yet.
No, because it doesn't have many views. It's on my private channel on YouTube, on my personal channel.
No, not OnlyFans.
Not OnlyFans. Not yet, but I'll think about it because it's obscene enough to have a good, I think it would look good on OnlyFans.
Maybe that's it, Drippy. Maybe we should move on to OnlyFans. Maybe we practice our skills in the wrong market.
But we need to have these talks with our boobs out. That would be interesting. So in the speech was about the possibility whether fashion can express individual selves. And one of the ideas that I propose is that fashion in this world is not just my idea. There is literature on this, but it's the fact that it's very difficult for fashion today to express any idea, let alone yourself. And that is because communication is only possible if we use a mutually intelligible code. Okay, we are speaking, we use the same language, English. Okay, if you spoke, I don't know, Russian and I spoke Italian, we would be unable to understand each other. So it requires mutually intelligible codes. And fashion in today's world, because of this idea of uniqueness and freedom of expression, has lost the possibility of communicating because it has lost the common codes. If everything is possible, nothing matters anymore. If everything is allowed, communication is impossible because whatever you wear is so weird and so unique that I don't know what meaning to give to it because we are not using clothes in the same way. Therefore, we are not speaking the same.
But how comes everyone dressed more or less the same at the same time?
Do you think? I think yes. I think you're right in one sense. Everybody is dressed in the same way, but everybody thinks that they are not. So everybody's dressed in the same way, but everybody claims to be unique. A little bit like hipsters. Hipsters are that weird category of people that if you can clearly identify them on the streets, that is a hipster. Okay, beard, always the same. And then if you go there and you say you are a hipster, they would say, how dare you? I'm my own person. So everybody knows who they are except themselves.
I think it's a perfect trick of subcultures. Everyone, starts with this idea of, different lifestyle, having different ideas or having some profound understanding about something. But in the end, we all end up looking the same.
Yeah, I use the example of hipsters precisely because I think they are not a subculture, and unlike what people may think. And the reason why is that what you say is true. Subcultures think that they are different, but all of them at the end of the day look pretty much the same.
We think the same.
Yes, but the point is that at least subcultures are proud to be part of a group. Whereas hipsters, the sort of postmodern, late postmodern idea of subculture is everybody is their own their own universe, and there is no sense of. What I mean is, if you go to a hipster and say you are a hipster, they may say Absolutely not. I'm my own person. Whereas if you go to a punk and you say you're a punk, they would be happy about it. So there is a sense of community that is completely lost in today's incarnation of styles, of subcultural styles. So therefore, this makes contemporary subcultures not subcultures at all.
Yeah, I mean, potentially we lost sense of community in all aspects of our life. I don't know, Jip, actually quite a good idea and something to think about. Do you think there is a sense of community anywhere in today's modern reality?
No, I think that we are, and this probably ties to some of ideas that you wanted to bring up. We are radicalizing our individuality in our society. We are individualistic societies, very different from the collectivistic societies of the Far East, and there is a lot of literature about this. But I think we are mistaking individuality, which is a value, for individualism, which is a limitation.
No, you're right. So I read this article online written by a Russian sociologist, Sergei Medvedev, and it was a reflection on Dostoyevsky book, Notes from Underground. And essentially, like, not to go too much into detail, he criticizes in his novel the idea of a rational egoism and a protagonist in a novel. He is spiteful and regretful of society. He despises everyone. He tries to diminish everyone he comes across. And he finds this idea of absolute free will to be ridiculous. So the concept of exercising freedom to do whatever you want in your own interest, not considering other people or general society prosperity. And I thought it was quite interesting how he reflects on Crystal Palace. And he goes, wouldn't it be nice to go and destroy Crystal Palace? Because Crystal Palace for him symbolizes sort of the pinnacle of Western society, modernity and progress. And he goes, well, how about I go and destroy it? And what will you say then? So maybe all your ideas are false. And he almost says, like, I don't want 2 + 2 to be 4. Why, regardless of all your bright ideas, this logic does not hold up, I can destroy it. And like when he goes on and on. Anyway, and the guy in the article, he wrote a reflection on his book, and he sees Putin as this sort of a man, identifying him with a character, saying what, because apparently the narrative goes what Putin stayed in bunker for the past few years.
Yeah.
And essentially maybe he's been in the underground for too long. So he became so spiteful over society, but he is now exercising radical egoism from his side. And he thinks, well, you know what? I'm so spiteful. Now I'm going to destroy your Western democracy and Western world. And if you haven't paid attention before, now you see me.
Yeah. It does seem very acute. I think in a way Putin is reproposing the idea of the French king, l'état c'est moi, the state it's me. I am the state. So it doesn't matter what the state thinks, because I coincide with my own country. Therefore, my will is the will of my country. And there is no idea of consensus or shared. He promises probably to Russians greatness, la grandeur. So it really ties with the pre-revolutionary French kings in this sense. But there is this confusion between the ruler and the benefit, what benefits the country.
Like his personal agenda, so to say. Like I think this is where it got to. I think there's a huge disconnect of associations. By the way, I think, Drippy, like the way we've been talking about war, we would have been banned, cancelled, and sanctioned in Russia, or like we definitely would have gotten a sentence at this point. So
there is still time.
Still time, always keep your opportunities open. That's our spirit, right? But definitely. There's a narrative currently, what Putin is doing, it clearly became his own personal exercise of this rational egoism, where he's just doing whatever he thinks is the best, and he is already not considering wider society, and he is just going, wild with whatever he does. I thought it was very interesting, and it made me question, value of human life. Is it is it the value, or is it individual value we should appreciate? Is it the whole society we need to think about? But I think it really opens a huge sort of contemplation about how our world functioning as a wider group. Because, you know, whereas you, whereas me, whereas Putin, and when there is a wider world, and we all somehow need to coexist, but it seems like everyone developed their own idea of how it should work. And it just getting very, very grim and grotesque.
Very grotesque. Yeah.
Well, but you know what? There is always a way to escape. And guess what? TV series do it better than anyone else. And new season of Bridgertons is out now. And, you know, I read some reviews, and guess what is the biggest complaint? The lack of sex.
Oh, lack of sex.
Well, lack of
so
sex.
were people watching it for, I mean, why don't you watch your porn, really? Why do you need to watch a TV series to see sex? I never understood this. This, to me, this idea of putting so much sex in TV shows reflects the Puritan American ethos, whereby you have to insert sex in a narrative so that you are justified in watching it.
So it's appropriate.
So it's appropriate. So you don't feel like I'm not watching that because I'm kinky, because, oh my gosh, I'm not kinky. I'm watching that because it's a TV show. And then there is some sex, but actually the real reason why I'm watching it is sex. So I think it's not as open-minded as it may seem. It's very actually Puritan in a way, because you need a justification to watch an erotic show. I mean, if you want to see an erotic show, just go on Pornhub. It's like, or go to my Instagram account.
Okay. I mean, okay,
I'm always naked.
I think after that we really have to start OnlyFans account.
Exactly.
Just, you know, how you gonna buy
I mean, seriously, I think it's an excuse, because whenever there is sex in TV shows, it really bothers me. As a sexually free person, as I am, and open-minded, it really bothers me too much. For instance, there was a beautiful TV show in principle that I couldn't watch because there was too much useless sex in it, which was How to Get Away with Murder. Do you watch that? And it was a beautiful idea.
Remember.
The characters, the protagonist is this black woman, this lawyer, everything was amazing, okay? Except that every time there is sex, the problem is that the narrative of the movie stops. It gives you this sort of time for wank, this sort of titillation moment, and then it carries on. And every time I get so bored during these fake sex scenes that I put fast forward, and I got tired of doing it and I abandoned the series. So that would have been an amazing series if sex was not so.
It reminded
and Bridgerton, same thing.
It reminded me, I had a very interesting occasion once. When I was in Florence, I went to some bar and we were waiting for a friend. Well, it was like a group of us. And it was some, you know, sort of a very like low-key bar somewhere in the alley. Like not like fancy bar, not hotel bar, just like, you know, local style, almost like local Italian pub. Yeah. And where was the TV on, and where was the bartender? Maybe it was during the day, so there were like about like one or two patrons inside. So it was like pretty much empty. And there was some TV series which seemed to be very boring, but we had nothing to do, and like we were just watching it because we were waiting for someone. And suddenly, like, we started like a very intense sex scene in this TV series.
Was it an Italian TV show?
I don't think so. No, I don't think it was Italian, but I actually don't know what it was. But regardless, I just thought it was like very weird experience. Like you sit with random strangers in a bar in the middle of the day, and everyone is watching like it suddenly turned into like almost hardcore porn. And I just was like, right, this is very interesting.
Yes.
and also very pathetic at the same time. Like
that's the thing. I find those moments pathetic. And useless and not sexy at all. It's so difficult to portray good sex in movies. First of all, it's so difficult to do it in a way that is meaningful, that is not just titillating, you know, the viewers' senses. But also, I don't think. And also, besides, Bridgerton has so many problems that's the least That's the list. It's such an ugly
Well,
TV series.
apparently, if you do the Google search, not the Pornhub search, you will find that's the biggest problem. Actually, I'm quite curious now. Probably we should go on Pornhub and search costume drama porn. I wonder. I guess everything exists on Pornhub, but I think it would be quite funny.
They are much more creative, I think, in Pornhub.
I mean, it never stops to amaze me the amount of content they produce. You know, like these guys really know how to create a narrative.
To me, Bridgerton was also wrong, and I couldn't understand why they needed a sort of no, it was not Georgian, it was Regency, I think.
Yeah,
Regency drama to which Regency, and then constantly betrayed by the fact that it's not Regency. So it's all this confusion. Why do you need to refer back to a historical moment in such a loose way? What is the point?
I think
I really don't see the point. It's very pointless.
Well, from what I understand, I think especially because first season came out during the pandemic, right? I think people really like the idea of escapism, like nothing new here, but you know, escapism in everyday life, it's sort of a little bit too close to home. And that's why I think shows like Euphoria is successful, because Euphoria is very much drug-induced and technology and contemporary society. And then I think another spectrum of this escapism is this historical reference. So I think they create this space, which is hyper real, because it seems to be like, you know, this moment already happened, people lived through it, but we are not part of it. We will never really experience it. So I think it's like this perfect utopia of past life experience and escapism.
But why do you have, my point is, I do understand escapism and I like escapism as well, but why do you have to refer to some very specific historical moment? So what I mean is, for instance,
because it's already happened. Like
no, that's the thing. It never happened. That never happened.
But that's such a perfect fantasy.
No. Okay, I'm saying, why don't you create a fantasy drama, which is unrelated from any historical moment? You are referring to a very specific historical moment and getting it all wrong, but not because Derek Jarman, for instance, he created some historical movies set in the past that were completely wrong and creative. Even in Marie Antoinette, Sofia Coppola put some on purpose, some wrong things like the Converse shoe, etc. But those signify something. Those are moments in which the going astray from history is creative and it's conducive to the construction of a meaning. In this case, there is no consistency, there is not coherent, is in any way. So at that point, why don't you create something fantasy in which you are allowed to mix any historical moment without referring to any specific one, like, I don't know, the Lord of Rings, or what's the other one?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
You know what, because I think, first of all, our society is consistently inconsistent. But secondly, I do think there's a human sentiment and nostalgia, which is, regardless of it's being accurate or not, I think we glamorize and we idealize past regardless.
Yeah.
And it just gives consumer of this content an illusion, but it seems to have some reference to illusionary past. Like you said, it never happened, but it gives a reassurance like it could have happened. Because look, I don't think most people really analyze the accuracy of historical references in this TV series.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying that historical references have to be accurate, but if you don't make them accurate, make sure that there is a reason for it, like in Sofia Coppola's case, like in Derek Jarman's case. In this case, I don't see any meaning behind it, and some things are extremely, even conceptually wrong, like, besides being inaccurate, like colors that could not exist at the time because they were not invented yet, or corsets that did not exist at the time because there was no technology to create them yet, because corsets are in the Victorian era, which they did not exist in those bone corsets did not exist in the Edwardian, in the Regency period. Actually, Empire Waist does not require corsets at all, so it just doesn't make much sense to me. me. What you say about nostalgia is true. And I think that this is a feature of our society that worries me all the time. And it's our obsession with the past because we don't have any faith in the future. And
it's difficult to have faith in the future in current
and
day
in a
and
weird
age.
way, this is not too different from the contemporary obsession with colonialism and British Museum and destroying statues of people who lived hundreds of years ago, based on some contemporary obsessions. So we are obsessing about the past, like trying to change the past, like Bridgerton does that. The past is completely changed because we fantasize about the past and this to me is a sort of a burden that doesn't allow us to create a better future. We are obsessing so much about the past that we are not looking ahead. And we should leave the past alone and improve the future, because change in the past will not in itself mean anything for our future.
That's true, JP. It's all about moving on forwards. But I can share a fun personal story about British Museum.
Oh yeah, please do.
So I had a new tattoo done. I'm gonna show it to you now.
Oh
yeah, a moment of revelation.
Oh no! Oh, is it the glass one?
It's not glass. It's like it was made, I think, out of marble.
Yeah. Is it marble? Isn't that transparent one?
No, it's not transparent. It's just like a solid. I'll send you a picture. I think it's marble.
Show to our listeners.
Yeah, guys, look at me.
It's a skull.
I look like I'm a piece of meat here, covered in flesh.
It's very beautiful.
In cling film. Thank you very much. Well, I obviously, like told you, I have a reference from British Museum.
Yeah.
And I went to, to tattoo artist, and I, got the design, and she really liked the design, and I just showed her the reference. And while she was doing it, I told her, I got the inspiration from British Museum. I said, found this little piece, and obviously, it's a skull, and I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, what is in
lizard? There's a lizard.
Lizard.
Yes, so my little lizard brain, reptilian brain. Got to be honest, but also I think skull. It's such a memento mori, for me it's such a huge artistic symbolic thing, everything has to pass and everything is temporary, and I think we should absolutely embrace it. So here we go, I'm embracing it with my little lizard brain, but essentially I told her what the reference was from British Museum, and the moment I sat, she suddenly kind of felt a bit uncomfortable, and she told me, I have very difficult relationship with British Museum. I'll never even go there because...
Was she British?
Yeah, because she said, I feel quite uncomfortable with colonial past and all the things we have are stolen. And I thought it's quite interesting, right? How object out of a context, we can really enjoy it. But when we place something within specific narrative, can make someone feel like, actually, this is not appropriate, or this is a little bit odd. And
I very often find, now you're making me think, I'm
glad.
Yeah, you are making me think. Actually, I found myself over the past couple of years, very often with British people and having to defend Britain, because the moment in which is a country I live in, I belong here, you know what I mean? This is, to some extent, is my country, and it's yours as well. So I sometimes have to defend the country because the moment in which you mention Britain and the British Museum, there is a sense of they have to excuse themselves for their past, for things that they don't have any specific...
They have to accept the past and live with it.
Exactly, and especially when it comes to museums, and just assuming that the British Museum is wrong and the National Gallery is wrong. And I mean, seriously, and once it's so, give them back. Don't complain, give them back. If you believe so, give them back.
But also strip all the, wallpapers of Liberty, because, this is Liberty print is nothing to do with British culture. If we start it is
British culture in the sense that colonialism at the time brought these ideas to Britain and make them theirs.
But I think let's strip all, your nice Art Deco elements of architecture, stop having your 20s style Great Gatsby parties. If you really want to unstrip all cultural references which come from international relationships.
But apparently there are similarities between the statues, the Hindu statues in India and Grecian statues, because it's due to the fact that Alexander the Great, when he conquered half of the world, got to India and therefore left the seeds for certain Indian art. Okay, so the fact that they are inspired by Grecian art doesn't mean that they should abandon them because they are stealing the idea from the Grecian from hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. It doesn't really make sense. It does not make sense.
Yeah, I mean, consistently inconsistent logic of rational egoism.
Yeah, and also thinking that by atoning this historical, by saying, oh, the British Museum is so bad, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for what we did. Yeah, does this change anything? Does this change what you did? No. Therefore, live with it.
I think, Drippy, the irony of all that, we live in a culture profoundly influenced by international elements, by references to the past, which is not necessary from where we come from. And everything in our visual spectrum is full of bits and pieces which come from other cultures. Even contemporary art, fashion is very much influenced by Impressionists, and Impressionists were very much, influenced by Japan and so on. The moment we start deny our past, the moment we start to write off our mistakes or wrongdoings, we stop learning our lessons and moving forward. We are bound to repeat same bullshit again and again if we come up with this approach where, this is uncomfortable, let's not talk about it, let's just pretend it never was there.
Yeah, I mean, once I went to... this
Great Gatsby party?
No, doesn't have anything to do with this specifically, but it shows you how I often have to reassure people talking to me that it's okay if they are British. It's okay if British Museum exists, and it's okay. It happens to me even to have to reassure people that it's perfectly okay if they are straight. Okay, and Really? Yeah, because there is this idea, especially amongst young people, that the moment in which they have to say that they're straight in a conversation, they always have to excuse themselves for it, and they add something like, I'm straight so far, or yes, but you never know, or they say that they are open, which means I'm straight, but I don't like to say that I'm straight because I don't want you to think that I'm a bad person. So very often they pretend to be open. And once I went to the doctors, and I'm talking about a specific type of straight person. I'm not talking about, the average. Once I went to the doctor I was checking something.
Chicken level of British medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
Decolonizing British medicine.
And this doctor was terrified because he had to ask me questions like if I was gay, etc. And the doctor was terrified to using the wrong word. And at some point, he was truly terrified. He was always excusing themselves and saying, oh yeah, but specifying things. And I said, look, can I tell you to use the words that your profession requires you to use, and don't be afraid. I'm not going to sue you because I'm not going to be that easily offended. So do what your job tells you to do. Don't worry about offending me, because I know that it's not that whatever word you use is not intended to offend me. It's just intended to do your job. So do your job. Chill down. I am extremely,
amazing.
Extremely. So, but this idea of people feeling this sort of guilt for not having done anything, and me having to every time say, okay, chill down, it's okay. Use the words that you have to use. You're British, it's okay. British Museum, not your fault, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but simultaneously we are welcoming influence from international markets, such as this fast fashion chain.
Oh my gosh!
Shein.
Shein. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce.
I always thought it was Shein.
The only thing that I know is that I didn't know I didn't know shit about this this store. And then all of a sudden I was bombarded by in-depth analysis about it from Business of Fashion. Mm-hmm. Then I looked into it and I decided to make it a case study for my students, because what is happening with Shein is that is a Chinese shop, which is similar to that sells online, I think, mostly, and they have a very aggressive strategy, which is actually making the brand grow very, very fast. Is the second favorite online shop after Amazon in America. And I'm not talking about fashion, I'm talking about in general. And they are growing at an outstanding rate. And one of the ways in which they do it in two ways. One is by creating very cheap things and abolishing, you know, the price, and being very pervasive and launching into the market, into their website, a humongous amount of different styles. Things that no H&M or Zara can match. And therefore, forecasts say that they will become, in few years, as powerful as H&M and Zara together.
Wow, now, and not Jeff Bezos and his stylish puffer was involved. You know Jeff Bezos, yeah. You know, he wears this like awful puffers, you know, this very Patagonia.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Actually, Shein has this sort of more like it's very Z generation style, which is interesting because they have a lot of, I guess it's similar to what Topshop used to be 10 years ago. These sort of festival looks that are very cheap, very easy to wear, very festivally, and very, yay, let's drink and get pissed.
And then put the outfits in let's be sick on outfits, and then we can go to bed.
Yeah, it's even a little bit euphoria in some sense. And they have so much choice. Now, this is the problem for me. If you look at if you are in fashion, the first thing that you do if you want to start a new line or anything is you do a survey, you conduct a survey. And in surveys say that Z generation are extremely careful to things like diversity, inclusivity, and especially sustainability. So you think that, okay, that's what they consistently say in every, survey, therefore they must be very, very motivated.
But everyone wants to, hold the higher moral ground and say, I'm the good guy.
That's the thing. And the more I study psychology, the more I realize that surveys are not to be taken seriously, because people simply lie. But sometimes they lie knowing that they're lying. They tell you in polls what the interviewer interviewer wants to listen to, or even if it's anonymous. So you tend to conform. Even if it's anonymous, you tend to give the answer that is the right one. And we have seen, for instance, the fact that things like Brexit and Trump were not detected before because people consistently sometimes lied in surveys. And the same thing is happening to sustainability. Everybody seems to be. But
everyone lies. Everybody lies.
And sometimes it's not because they know they are lying. It's because of something that in psychology is called construal level theory. When a value is far from you, you commit to it. When the value is close to you, in either time or space, you tend to forget about the value and you buy into the low-level characteristics of what you are confronted with. So my idea is that people consistently, when they are far from the object that they want to buy, they consistently say that they care about sustainability. But when they're about to buy things, when they're close to their object of desire, the value vanishes. And Shein's success is exactly the demonstration of it. It does not reflect a world where Z generation seems so obsessed about sustainability and applauding Greta Thunberg. It does not reflect that. It reflects a world that is worse than the world where I grew in, where people were less concerned about sustainability, but at least they were buying things that were produced locally in either America or in Italy, like Benetton and Gap, etc. And at least that was, to some extent, at least you could buy things with a little bit of a better quality that could last longer in time.
Oh yeah, I have a perfect example. So my laptop is 10 years old, and I decided to go and get it checked.
Is it this one?
Yes.
Ooh, wow.
And basically, I went to Apple. We did like a whole test run, And they told me, oh, because I was thinking like it's kind of running out of its juices, and I was quite ready to buy a new one. And I asked him like, so what's the deal? Like, is it on its last breath? And the guy looks at me and says, no, we used to do better laptops, was to make better laptops 10 years ago. So your laptop is actually better than the latest MacBook Pro would be. Wow. Let's just get you new processor, memory cards and battery, and it will be like better than anything else you can get on the market. So I ended up spending like 200 quid, upgrading some of the hardware. Did it myself, Drupi. Like my lizard brain managed to take a screwdriver.
Good. I wouldn't be unable to do it.
I mean, you don't have a lizard brain, maybe.
No, I think you are haunted by a straight man who can do these sort of things.
I'm haunted by a straight man.
Yes.
You're
possessed.
I'm possessed by a straight man inside.
A straight man took hold of you, not in the physical sense.
Yeah. Interesting. But they think it's a straight man, right?
Yeah, because they are the ones who can deal with technology. But it's very interesting because, but one thing is that Mac does it because Mac wants to sell more products. But for me, the problem is, regardless of big corporations, the problem is how people shop. It's not big corporations are excused in doing it.
I have one last question for you, actually.
Yes.
You told me you like escapism. What's your favorite way to escape?
My favorite way to escape is probably watching movies yes, is watching movies. Yes, I don't have many ways of escaping other than that. Watching movies, watching RuPaul's Drag Race, which I love, and watching TV shows. That's my vicarious mental life, because in the real world, I am not somebody who plays too much with clothes and escapes too much. Yeah, it's all in I'm very lazy, basically. Yeah. What is yours?
My favorite way to escape, I guess, I like going and seeing things, like experiencing.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm too lazy for that.
No, I think for me, I'm too active. I like going and seeing places, seeing art exhibitions, performances, just, visiting new areas and seeing stuff. I think it challenges my brain. Actually, I think I like to see things which I'm maybe to some extent a bit uncomfortable with. not the British Museum, but I like challenging my brain. I think it makes me think a little bit in a different ways, and it's odd frame of escapism, maybe a bit uncomfortable, but I enjoy it. So yeah, on this note, we hope everyone gets to escape in whatever way they find the most suitable. And until that moment, culture gone bad.
Escape, but not too much.